Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fatima Merchant. I'm the room host for today. Welcome. A few housekeeping notes. Please put your devices on silent as a courtesy to your fellow neighbors. And all the sessions here are going to be live streamed and recorded, would be made available after the event. If you have any issues with your headsets, please raise a hand and someone will come and help you. Welcome to today's session. It's a level 100 session, The Power of Possibility, Navigating Tomorrow's Tech Landscape, which features a masterclass series where we will explore emotional intelligence, innovation, and discover practical frameworks to enhance your leadership capabilities. Please welcome Ambika to the stage to take it on. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our AWS Summit Super Session, The Power of Possibility. Today's session aims to inspire, connect, and challenge you all to think about what does tomorrow's tech landscape look like? And how can we as an industry prepare as we continue to evolve and grow, truly embracing the idea of the power of possibility? We're about to embark on an insightful journey, exploring how the intersection of emotional intelligence and innovative leadership is reshaping our industry today. Through two power-packed masterclasses, you'll gain actionable insights and frameworks, as well as real-life strategies that will elevate your own leadership styles. Whether you're currently leading teams or aspiring to drive change, this session is designed to equip you with tools needed to thrive in our rapidly evolving tech landscape. I'm Ambika Sinha, an Associate Account Manager here at AWS, and I'm hosting this session alongside my co-lead, Jeanette Tang. What makes today special isn't just the strategies you'll learn, it's the potential for transformation and application within your own teams and companies. I encourage you all to think about something that you are hoping to achieve and achieve it within the next year, and keep this in mind as you hear from our inspiring masterclasses today. As a quick note of housekeeping, this is a super session and there will be 2 sessions held today, with this being the first. The second one will explore transformative networks, and I encourage you all to come along to that one today at 2:50 as well. The second session will begin at 2:50 with morning tea at 2:35. I'd now like to invite Michelle Hardy, the leader of professional services, to stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I thought I'd get us warmed up by helping us think about the intersection of what human performance, technology, and careers have in common. So, firstly, I don't know about you, but when I think about human performance, I think about sport and athletes. And one that particularly comes to mind is swimming. Swimming is Australia's most medal-winning sport. And in fact, our women's 4x100 relay team has been called the greatest of all time. And for great reason. Has anyone seen the results of last year's 2024 Paris Olympics campaign? Now, one of the interesting things about Swimming Australia is that they absolutely recognise how they might be able to integrate technology in helping their athletes achieve a higher level of performance. So AWS has actually been working with Swimming Australia since 2018. We started with helping them work backwards from a challenge that they were having in terms of looking at disparate data sources. So we worked on a data lake foundation which helped them bring together a lot of different data that they had from competitions, from training, and putting that all together along with other web-based sources, from competition and race history data from the International Federation of Swimming. So putting that all together in one data lake foundation really helped them actually provide the basis for some of their foundational insights. Upon that, they were able to build. They built a couple of apps. So the first of those was a relay app. The relay app helped Swimming Australia determine the optimal order of swimmers in a relay. They also built an app called Lane 4. and that was named after the center lane in the pool where optimum performance occurs. But really looking at the way in which they can think about how to actually better provide those insights to swimmers to drive an increased level of performance. Swimming Australia is also looking at where they can additionally get gains, and often that's in the training pool. So again, training insights using data provided by computer vision and machine learning to drive better insights to coaches, but actually at poolside. And they've been able to do that through the data foundations, but also through using tools and generative AI like Amazon Q for QuickSight to really interrogate that data, provide real-time coaching feedback to swimmers. So now we've started to take a look at human performance and how that can be supported or augmented by technology. I've spoken to a number of customers and partners here at Sydney Summit over the last couple of days, and they're all super energized by a lot of the innovation that AWS is bringing. Now, it is hard to keep up though. We have over 225 services on AWS currently and continuing to grow. So how do you keep up with those skills? So there's a lot of different ways that can be done, and often the great news is that can be done in a micro-skilling kind of element. As an example, AWS Skill Builder provides over 600 free digital courses and learning pathways. That's just one way of keeping up. But interestingly, as we enter into this world of generative AI, agentic, and so much more, the idea of building deep skills in technology is one part of it. But equally, we don't all have to be deep machine learning scientists to actually continue to evolve with this new technology. In fact, a World Economic Forum Jobs of the Future report did a study in terms of what were going to be the most in-demand and highly valued skills of the future. The top two, creative thinking and analytical thinking, followed by technological literacy, curiosity, and a lifelong passion for learning. I didn't actually hear machine learning as one of those skills. So I think that really helps us understand how we can actually bring all of our perspectives to the table and continue to iterate on the skills that we build. Now, human performance, okay, we talked about swimming and we talked about how it was augmented by technology and all of the exciting things that we can do. How do we build skills? How do we package that up into how we think about careers and growth for the future? Now, I've worked in tech for over 30 years now. Yes, I started when I was very young. And I guess through my journey, I think I've learned a few things in terms of how I've thought about growing my career and taking opportunities. And I thought I'd share 3 things with you as we close this out. So firstly, one of the things that I've learned is around embracing change. So sometimes when we have an opportunity that's presented to us, we don't often kind of go, oh, I wasn't really thinking about that was the direction I was going to take, or I'm not actually sure that I'm the best person to do that. But what I've learned is sometimes these things just happen for a reason, and you should really take that opportunity with both hands and kind of leap in. When I first started in my career out of university, I started as a graduate in consulting, and I had a very defined career path, and it looked straight to me. But I quickly learnt that I actually needed to take some of those little meandering journeys and develop new skills. So for example, I started in a discipline supporting technology implementations, but it was all around the people, change management or human performance. I then quickly learned to actually be effective in managing large projects. I needed to build better sort of system skills. So I took a job as a system test lead coordinator, working with infrastructure teams. Okay, there was no cloud back then. We needed to procure servers, but looking at the ways in which we could make sure that we were on time and had all of the schedule configured to ensure that we had the systems ready when we needed it. So embracing change, taking opportunities. The second thing that I think about as part of my career is we talk a lot these days around, there's the career ladder, but there's also a career lattice. So really looking for ways in which you can navigate different ways that you can get breadth of experience in your career. And that's definitely something that I've really enjoyed across my career with lots of different roles, whether that's been from deep delivery roles through to chief operating officer roles and now heading up professional services for Australia and New Zealand. So really looking at how you take advantage of those breadth opportunities. One of the mental models that I think about is, I think about my career and I talk to a lot of mentees around this, it's a kit bag. As you go along your career, you keep putting skills in your kit bag, and some of them you may figure out that actually I don't want to do that anymore, so maybe it drops out. But you continue to add skills into your kit bag and look for opportunities to build on those skills and capabilities through your career. And then the third thing, don't be afraid to ask for help. I don't know, maybe I'm unusual, but I'm kind of one of those adults. I'm still not quite sure what I want to be when I grow up. But talking to a lot of people gives me a lot of energy and a lot of ideas on what actually could be next for me. So I really love reaching out to mentors, sponsors, other allies, or just exploring a different kind of part of a business that I haven't necessarily known enough about, which could lead to something. Now we talk about networks, and that's going to be the subject of the next kind of super session. It's not a bad thing. Networking is not a bad thing. It is a great way to expand your horizon in terms of opportunities. I often say it's not necessarily the person that you're speaking to. It could be the person they speak to next that say, oh hey, I was actually speaking to Michelle and she could be great for that opportunity that you're talking about. So don't be afraid to ask for help. So they're my three kind of learnings as I've found so far in my career. Embracing change, thinking about ladder versus lattice, broadening career, and then not being afraid to ask for help. So hopefully that gets us a little bit warmed up for our next speaker. So I would love to welcome to the stage a very good friend and colleague of mine, Cindy Schwartz. Cindy is the Head of Customer Solutions for Public Sector in Australia and New Zealand. And Cindy is going to explore with you how emotional intelligence and leadership go together to be a more effective leader. Cindy, welcome up.
I am clickerless. Is there a clicker? Thank you. I was going to have to tap dance, and none of you want me to do that. So I am Cindy Schwartz. It is wonderful to see all of you here today. It is going to be really strange watching all of you with your headphones as I try and do this, so apologies if it comes off awkwardly, because it feels really awkward. I do lead the customer solutions team in the public sector, and it's a wonderful privilege to do that. But I'm here today to actually talk to you as the head of the emotional intelligence community across all of the Amazon companies in Asia Pacific and Japan. And we talk about how we can bring the best of humanity back into work. And how do we help our teams be better humans at work, be more productive, get better outcomes, and help to drive their own careers and work with their teams and their customers in a different way. So we're going to talk a bit about the innovator's mindset. Because when it comes to thinking about how we innovate, we have to be in a mindset that allows us to innovate. And when we think about the constant hustle that we have, day by day, we're all back-to-back in meetings, but yet we're meant to have time to think about innovation and change. And how do we bake this into what we do every day? I'm going to try and go through this. This is typically a 45-minute session that I'm doing super, super fast. So if I go a little bit too fast from a New York perspective, I do apologize. You can catch me afterwards. But we want to cover a bit of the neuroscience. There is science behind what we talk about here. This is not just as an emotional intelligence perspective and a feel-good thing. There's science that tells us how we act, how we react, and why. And understanding that is really important to understanding how to harness the power. Then we're going to talk a bit about how you can boost your own personal innovation, and then think about how you can work within your own organization to build the environment where innovation can succeed and thrive. And lastly, we're going to give you a couple of resources where you can want some more additional insights that you can grab some for yourself. So I'm going to start with the neuroscience of stress. And when we think about this, emotions are a huge part of our day. I want you all to start raising your hand and put it down when you think the number is too high. So start everyone up. You experience emotions 10% of the day, 15%, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Winners. Over 90% of your day, you are experiencing an emotion. Now, to the folks who don't like to feel an emotion or acknowledge them, and we all have those moments, you are still experiencing them whether you acknowledge it or not. So if you can acknowledge it, it has power over you. However, if you know you are experiencing an emotion, you get to control it and you have power over it. And you can use that to help make things better. And you use those emotions to drive to the outcomes that you're looking for. So when we think about the way that this works, when you are emotional, your ability to pay attention, you get a grasshopper brain. You get off a really bad meeting with a customer, your boss, they ask you for something, you're stressed, and then someone's talking to you and you're off somewhere else because you are still replaying that conversation over and over and over in your head. And that impacts your ability to perform, let alone think about innovate. When we think about the way that that impacts our relationships, because we give our best self to work. And when you have a stressful work day and then you go home and your partner or your child says something, you are not your best self. And you don't always do things in a way that actually enhance those relationships. But understanding what and how can impact and can change that. Self-management is really hard. We have all been that monkey. We have all had that look on our face, that feeling, and that overwhelm that comes with it. And there is a psychological reason for it. There is a physiological reason for it. Because there's a neuroscience to the way our stress works, and our bodies actually change, and the cortisol and the hormones that run through your system actually change. Now, I don't know why I started doing this, but I actually started studying neuroscience recently because I do a lot of these sessions and I wanted to understand the science a little bit more than I already did. And when I think about the way that this actually works and the impact this has on us, it is phenomenal because we have so many different hormones that run through our brain, some of which they're really good. They help us. We want them. They make us better. They make us think better. They make us have better relationships. And then we have the ones that make us look like a monkey, which is not always a plus for what we actually want to do. The neuroscience of stress, and I'll go through this pretty quickly, but we have our limbic system, and it's our oldest part of our body, and we have stressors and inputs that come in, and we have this command center in our brain that looks at it and says, danger, danger, Will Rogers, we have a problem. And if we can't stop in that moment and engage our prefrontal cortex, which is where our higher order thinking sits, we sit reactively. And we are reacting to the emotion that comes through, and we don't have a chance to change the actual hormones running through the system, and we let the cortisol go through. Now, I don't know how many of you have done this, but you're sitting in a session, you're sitting in a meeting, you hear someone say something and you're like, oh dude, that is so wrong. And you so want to speak, but you know you shouldn't. And you're like, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it. Oh my God, I said it. That is because you didn't let the prefrontal cortex kick in before you actually reacted. And you reacted instead of responding. I do it a lot, career limiting moves, it's not a good thing. But learning to take that breath and just, whew, it actually allows you, it's more than just a breath. You are actually allowing your brain time to catch up. And you want that reptilian brain to go to sleep for a bit and let your higher order thinking come through. Now, stress isn't always bad. And there's a study done, and it's the Yerkes-Dodson model. And it talks about when you have low levels of stress, and completely low levels, you're kind of disengaged, you're bored. It's like, all right, same. Then you have an issue when you're overstressed. It's too hard, it's constant, there's no break. And when you're doing this, you're the monkey again. You actually want to sit here in the middle. This is peak performance. This is peak innovation. This is where you're engaged, you're excited. It is wonderful, but you know if you do it too long and too hard, you are so tipping over that other side into monkey brain. And we don't want monkey brain to come in. And you need to find a way to recognize it in yourself. And one of the ways we think about recognizing this is the way your body is going to respond to emotion. And to do that, you need some emotional agility. And emotional agility means that you actually understand how you're feeling. And you can name that feeling. Show of hands and fingers, how many emotions do you think most adults can name? Because you can actually typically show it on one hand. Study done by Brene Brown, most adults in the US could name 3. Some version of mad, some version of glad, some version of sad. That is it. There are hundreds of emotions. When you learn how to actually recognize what it is, and then you figure out, is this an emotion I want to feel right now, or is this an emotion I need to control and manage right now? And understanding that changes our ability in the moment to react. So you have a physiological response to emotion. Everyone does. And when you're angry, you're hot. You'll see the heat on the body. When you're depressed, you actually get cold, your toes are cold. You don't feel things all the way through. So starting to recognize some of the physiological signs to how you are feeling, and then noting what you do with that emotion once you have that. Now, from a cortisol perspective, I know I have a tell. And anyone who works with me, and if you ever see me in a meeting and I start flushing here, I am cranky. That is the start of my crankiness. That is where I know I need to shush. Do not speak. You are in a reactive mode. And I have to know that. Learn your physiological sign for stress. Some people, it's their ears. Their ears turn bright red. You ever see the person who sits in that meeting and their ears are glowing? Some people break out into a sweaty palms, and you see them constantly doing this. Everyone has a tell, and it's a physiological response. I'm really big on reminding people it's physiological, because people don't like emotions at work. No one wants to bring the emotion in. It's not a comfortable feeling. It's a very uncomfortable feeling. But if you're experiencing emotion over 90% of your day, whether you want to or not, you are bringing emotion to work. So understanding that physiological response and knowing what to do with it. This is something, there's a mood meter. It's an awesome app. And it was done by Mark Brackman of the EQ Institute in Yale. And what it helps you do is just recognize high energy, low energy, pleasant, not so pleasant. And figuring out, even if you can only name what quadrant you're in, I am low energy, not happy. I am high energy, super happy. And knowing where you sit there, then you can just start then picking the right emotions. There are apps, there's one called the Mood Meter, there's another one called How You Feel or How We Feel that you can download and just track it and start to feel more comfortable with it. I should have clicked through, I'm bad at the clicking. So now we talked about that you are stressed, what do you do about it? Move your body. Physical movement is one of the absolute best natural de-stressors we have. It releases dopamine in the body. It allows you, and if you can do it outside, even better, bring some vitamin D in. It is amazing what it does. Go on a walking one-on-one. You have a meeting and you need a call, just take it outside. Get some noise-canceling headphones so that you can do that. But find a way to bring outdoor and movement into your day. We spend so much time behind a computer screen right now. And when you're doing that all day long and you're sitting, you are not allowing your body to actually recover. We are not built to be sitting for 8 hours a day, which is also why I'm pacing back and forth on the screen, because I'm antsy. Connect with friends. Now, this sounds kind of obvious, but loneliness has a huge impact on your ability to manage stress. Loneliness has a huge impact on your happiness. Sitting at work, disconnected without friends, makes work really unpleasant. And I know that sounds kind of obvious, but sometimes what feels really obvious is hard to act on. There was a study done that shows that if you have 2 good friends at work, it is the equivalent of an extra $100,000 of salary to your life happiness. You are happier for having the extra friends at work than the money. Because you want connection. We all need connections. Humans are built for connection. And when you're sitting at work, make sure you have them. Have the person you can call and say, dude, did you hear that in the meeting? What were they thinking? But you do it for a moment so you don't create an echo chamber of negativity. But you want to get it out and have that conversation. And then breathe. I know it sounds so obvious. I forget to breathe all the time. When I am really, really stressed and I'm running and I'm doing things, I forget to breathe, which you wouldn't think is possible because you kind of fall down when that happens. But it takes for me to get out of breath to realize I had forgotten to breathe because I was too stressed. Mindful breathing does amazing things, and I won't do it today, but I want you all to think about the concept of box breathing. Box breathing is something Navy SEALs do, and they do it to clear their head. They need to make split-second decisions that are life and death, and you can't be mired with emotion in that moment. And by being able to do a box breathing ability, they actually can clear it. It lowers your heart rate, it calms your blood pressure, everything gets a little bit calmer in the moment, and it clears the stress like that. And what it is you count inhale to a count of 4, you hold to a count of 4, you exhale to a count of 4, you hold to a count of 4. And by the way, if you're not used to it, you might start gasping at the end of the holding to a count of 4, because it feels like a really long time. But you get better and better and better at it, and it actually is proven to reduce your blood pressure. What stress does to our bodies is unbelievable, and finding simple, easy ways to make that a little bit better. You can reframe your emotions. This is by far one of my most favorite things in the world. It has helped me through some of the hardest times in my life, and the ability to look at any situation and recognize it can be reframed. So I can reframe things by reinterpreting it. And I'm going to take I love the yet at the end of this. I'm a distance runner. I don't look it, but I am. I'm a distance runner so I can eat cookies. But when I got sick, I had to stop. And then suddenly I'm running, and I couldn't run as fast or as far as I had before. And I yelled at myself. I can't yell at myself. My thing is I can't do it yet. And I was better than yesterday, that's enough. But if what you tell your body and you tell your brain is, God, you're bad, you can't do it right now, that's a definitive black and white statement of you can't. I can't yet means I can tomorrow. There's still hope, there's opportunity. And your brain hears what you're thinking, and it remembers it, and it embeds it, and then it becomes a habit. And you need to create the habit of good. Repositioning things. Things aren't always as bad as we think we are, and finding the way to create something better out of it. Reordering. Your mom said it. Is this really going to bother you in 5 years' time? You know what? Your mom was probably right. Think about if this is really going to bother you in 10 minutes, in 10 months, or in 10 years. And if it's not going to bother you in 10 years, why are you wasting any of your stress on it today? Whoever has done it to you, whatever situation has done it to you, they don't deserve that part of you that it takes. And learning that. And then at the end is actually just normalizing it. I love a good pity party. Have a pity party. Sometimes things just suck. And embrace the suck. Acknowledge it. We don't pretend with toxic positivity. We acknowledge bad when bad exists, then brush ourselves off and stand back up. You don't have to believe your thoughts. Do not. I am a part of the Recovering People Pleasers Association that we really need to start. I'm also a recovering perfectionist. And as a recovering perfectionist, it is really, 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 really hard to innovate. Because you know what you have to do to innovate? Fail a lot. And if you're not willing to fail, you can't innovate. And if you want to be perfect, you can't do it because you're going to put yourself into a constant stress cycle. So you have to learn, and you also have to learn that not all of your thoughts need to be listened to. Your inner critic, my rule of thumb is, for any of you who have kids, would you let anyone speak to your child the way you speak to yourself in your head? Would you let anyone speak to your partner the way you speak to yourself in your head? And every time when you have that moment of, oh man, Cindy, you're such an idiot, and I have to remember I would never let anyone speak to my wife that way. Give yourself the same thought process. So when it comes to creating an innovative process, now I have run entire sessions with leadership teams on only this slide. If you are not willing to fail, you can't innovate. And if you are not willing to build a vulnerable culture, you can't create. It is just that simple. It is a black and white statement. There is nothing around it. There's no grayness. You have to fail. You have to be vulnerable. You have to stand in front of your people and say, I tried this and I failed. My team meetings, we stand up and we talk about, here's what we did this week, here's what we did, what we're doing next week, here are my blockers, here's what I tried last week. And when we try, we don't only talk about the things we succeeded in. We have to build a culture where failure is normalized. Fail fast, fail quickly, try and fail inexpensively and privately, but fail. But don't fail privately where you hide it from your teams. They need to see you fail so that they know they can fail. So, sleep. How many of you sleep less than 7 hours in a night? That's not bad, actually. This is normally a lot more people who sleep less than 7 hours. Your number one super booster you have is sleep. So when you sleep more than 7 hours, you're resting your brain, you're giving it time to recharge. For people who sleep less than 6 hours in a night, you have a 15% increase in your reaction time like you would as if you had the cortisol running through your system. You have a reactive brain. Your ability to control that is reduced purely by a lack of sleep. You also have increased rates of heart attack. You have increased rates of other stressful and stress-induced illnesses. And from a thought perspective, you need time to breathe and time to think if you want to innovate. Innovation requires creativity, and creativity requires a mind that is rested. And if you can't rest, you don't get it. Best thing you can do for yourself, for your stress, for your family is sleep. Prioritize yourself. We talk about putting out your oxygen mask on first in a plane. You want to take the time to take care of your children, model good behavior. Good behavior is you're sleeping 8 hours a night. You're getting your body relaxed and recharged. You're giving your body what it needs to be at its peak performance, because for less than 8 hours of sleep, you are not at your peak performance. And then we want to argue. We have a leadership principle called have backbone, disagree, and commit. I love, love, love that leadership principle. But the interesting thing is, we don't yell at each other. We argue points. We want to have an intellectual argument of the points that we're trying to make. We don't argue with each other and say, hey, Bob, what are you thinking? We say, hey, Bob, I kind of like your idea, but I think maybe if we tried this instead. And when you can manage it from that perspective, you are building an environment that has psychological safety. And I'm trying to go through this super fast because I don't know what my time is left, because it doesn't count at 20. Thank you. I have more time than I thought I did. At its core, psychological safety is a requirement for any organization that wants to innovate. Psychological safety is that I get to show up as me, and that's okay. Psychological safety is I get to tell my boss, hey boss, I don't agree with you. Sorry, you are wrong. And that is safe. We get to have task level conflict where we disagree on the points, we disagree on an approach, but we are safe. And when we look at it, there are multiple layers of what it looks like to be in a psychologically safe org. At its basic, it's inclusion. If there is not an inclusive environment where you can show up however you are, whoever you are, loving whomever you love, you are not going to have a psychologically safe environment. If you don't have an environment where learning is embraced, learn something new every single day, it is the best thing you can do. And tomorrow you are just that 1% better than you were today as a result of that. And you create the environment where learning is good and I can say, I don't know. Because if I don't know, I'm telling everyone else they're okay not to know. And that is really, really important. And then contributing. The idea that people get to contribute, no matter the level. This isn't about you're super senior, your voice matters more. Absolutely not. Everyone's voice is equal. Once you're in the door, there should be no rank anymore. We're the same. The door is shut. What do we need to do to be successful, and how do we drive that success? And then at its core, we need a challenger environment. We can challenge the status quo and say, you know what, the way we've always done this isn't right. I think we can do it better. I want to throw it out. Because what we love to do is add bolt-ons. I'm going to innovate. I heard this recently with a customer. We're going to innovate our release process. We have reduced it down to 30 pages. That was their agile approach to doing change management, is they took a document from 45 pages to 30 pages, and look at that, we've innovated. That's adding a bolt-on. That's, you know what, I'm going to cross a couple of things out. When you want to innovate, you throw out the 45-page document, you start from scratch and say, that wasn't right. I want to start over. What do I actually need as a core minimum to now have a release process? But if you don't have an environment where challenger mentality is allowed, where you can say, hey boss, we've always done it this way, I think we can do it better, will you let me try? And then the boss has to say, yes, go for it. And you create the environment where people, it is a yes culture. Or no, because. Not a no, because I don't feel like it anymore. Fearless organizations, and I think I wrapped just around on the fearless organization conversation. There are 4 things to having a fearless organization, and if you want to innovate, it needs to be fearless. The first thing is that we acknowledge our fallibility. As individuals, we acknowledge our fallibility. As an organization, we acknowledge our fallibility. It doesn't matter when you are the best and the brightest and you have the best people in the org and you're like, you know what? I can rest on my laurels. No, you can't. Innovation goes by the person who is thinking faster and moving faster. And you have to realize that you are fallible and your team is fallible and your company is. And it can be at risk if we don't do something about it. Having that culture and that acknowledgement of fallibility, of being brave enough to stand in front of people and say, I tried it, I spent a lot of time, I still didn't succeed. But here's what I learned. And here's how we can do it better next time. We want to model curiosity and be learners. The concept, I don't know how many of you know the concept of a knower versus a learner, but you have the knower who walks in and I am the expert. I'm standing here today as an expert in innovation and emotional intelligence. And if I stood here unable to ask a question of someone else I meet today and learn nothing from it, I'm modeling the wrong behavior. I might be an expert in parts of this, but my goodness, out of all of you out here, I would learn something from every single one of you in the application of this. And we have to walk into environments recognizing, no matter what we're an expert in, there's something to learn from every single person we interact with. And that learner mentality helps us be better every single day, just that 1% better. We want to reframe things constantly in learning the problem. So Einstein spoke about if I had an hour to solve a problem, I would spend 55 minutes deeply understanding the problem and then 5 minutes solving it. Overachievers love to say, I've got an answer. There's a problem and in an instant, I have an instant understanding of how to solve it. I've stopped listening to the problem almost immediately because I had an answer to it. We want to come into this at a learner mentality where we're constantly thinking and growing and trying to understand just a little bit more and understand deeper. We ask our questions of our customers over and over to understand what they actually need from us. Innovate on their behalf, not on ours. We don't want to sell them our wares. We want to understand what they need, what problem do they need solving, and then solve it for them and with them. And then we want to talk about the idea of turn-taking in conversation. I am standing up here, and it's going to sound so hypocritical as I say this, I am a ludicrous introvert. It took me years to learn how to stand up on stage and talk to people. It took me years to learn how to have a voice in a team meeting, because I used to think in my head, and until it was perfect, I couldn't say it out loud, because like I said, I'm a recovering perfectionist. And I had to learn how to do this. And when you have organizations, and your organizations are going to be split between extroverts and introverts and people who are anywhere in between, the loudest voice wins, and it shouldn't. And how do you create a conversational environment where everyone gets that voice and you choose the person who sits quietly and ponders? Because there's some brilliance in the ponderers. And they're thinking and thinking and thinking to make sure they understand before they actually go forward and speak. And making sure that environment is there for it. We have a couple of books that we recommend from an EQ perspective. Now, emotional intelligence is a part of what we do in our digital innovation group, and this is something we offer to our customers as well. We run sessions independently, we run sessions with leadership teams, we run sessions with ICs and individual contributors, helping them to either manage stress or how to create emotionally intelligent environments. But I will tell you, if you can read, I've said it a lot, I'll keep saying it, always try and be better, and 1% better, and the best way to do that is educate yourself through other thought leaders, and taking their brilliance and then building upon it. So there are some awesome books here. The one book that is not listed on here, and I really need to change this to put it back on, we have Atlas of the Heart by Brené Brown, which is a brilliant thing if you want to understand emotion. As a leader, and you want to understand it, any of the recovering perfectionists in the audience, the gifts of imperfection, by far the most recommended book I have ever given to other people and people I've mentored and coached. It was absolutely life-changing, I know for myself in 2014 when I read it for the first time. And for any recovering perfectionist in the audience, please read it, it will change your life too. But thank you so much for allowing me to be here, and I'm so excited to introduce Kate Goodwin, who's going to come on the stage, who heads Alexa here in Australia.
Hey everybody, oh my goodness, so many people. It's really great to have you here to join us for this session on the power of possibility. I am Kate Gooden. I have one of the best jobs in the world, I think. I lead the Amazon Alexa business in Australia and New Zealand. For those of you who don't know what Alexa is, and I'm hoping everybody does, Alexa is a personal voice assistant that is really transforming daily routines into streamless experiences. And we're in 500 million homes globally doing that, including in Australia. Every day, Alexa manages and takes actions on behalf of customers in their homes, from smart home to starting up the kids' lullaby at bedtime, billions of times every day. It's been a pretty incredible journey. I started with Alexa 6 years ago, and that was the start of my Amazon career as well. And it's been an absolute ride. But the journey I'm going to take you on today is a bit of a personal journey. When I was reflecting on what I could share today and how I could help you all thrive through the technological shifts that are happening, and my goodness, even just being here today and on the live stream yesterday, my head is blown, and I am working at Amazon. It's incredible the innovation that is happening every day, both within our business and also with our customers. And I'll definitely be catching up on some of those sessions again over the next few weeks. So, you probably can't hear it. I am a Kiwi. I grew up in New Zealand, and there's a Māori proverb that somebody reminded me of yesterday, which I think is just so perfect for the talk today, and then also for the journey that we're navigating. So it's ka mua, ka muri. And it means walking backwards into the future. And so if we take this proverb, the advice or the idea is that we look to the past to inform how we get to the future. And so today, I'm going to take you on my technological journey, and over the last 25 years working, but then also 40 mumble years as a human in this world. It is 1986, I'm 7 years old. Every Saturday morning you can see me sitting in front of the television, which was at the time pretty much my best friend, waiting for What Now to start. Any Kiwis in the room will be familiar with What Now. It started at 8 o'clock, I was there at 6 a.m. in the morning. Notebooks, teddies, pillows, it was a full camping setup. And the TV that we had was one of the old school cathode ray TVs. Anybody remember them? The big, deep, they're amazing. Anyway, the first big technological shift that I experienced in my life was the death of our television. You can imagine the devastation I felt when I came out one day and that TV was not working. My parents broke it to me. It was not good. But we were lucky enough to be able to get a new TV a couple of days later. And it was, well, as flat screen as it was that time. And I remember it had a remote control, which you plugged in with a great big long cord into the television. It was amazing. But what to do with the old TV? Now, my granddad was a builder. He had a massive shed. He spent days and days pulling things apart, putting them back together. And I thought, I can do that. And so I looked at the old TV and I went to Mum and Dad and I said, can I take the TV apart? And so here's me, age 7, with Dad's toolbox, a corner of the porch, and many, many hours of fun. When I tell you I took every single diode and transistor and wire out of that TV, laid them out, played with them, tried to put them back together, no dice. But it provided me with weeks and weeks of fun, and it was really my first experience of playing with hardware, exploring what was happening with the technology that I enjoyed every single day. 2 weeks later, Mum and Dad pulled the pin. They were sick of the mess, and I was about to smash the cathode ray. I'm pretty sure that's dangerous. I don't know. Anyway, they took it away, and so I was saved. And so my message here for the right now is just to lead with curiosity, and we heard Cindy and Michelle talk about this as well. I cannot emphasize enough how much innovation happens in the curiosity zone. New technologies, change, shifts, evolutions, all of these things can be so overwhelming. But I want you to promise me here that you will lean into learning with curiosity. This can be as easy as taking an AWS course. There's so many of them freely available online. You can check out the Builder Lounge over there. This is what we did as a team when we first started to work on our new Alexa Plus, where we're learning about models, learning about LLMs, generative AI, how it all comes together. It's really so critical to be able to understand what's under the hood to then be able to transform it into your business and your use cases and your problems. Next, I want you to seek answers. Talk to your stakeholders, understand their pain points. Look for how technology, in whatever form it may be, could help solve those problems. Use AI to chuck it all in and see what the AI comes up with. AI is such a great thought starter. I actually used it to help put together some of this once I got all my ideas down on paper. And be bullish about carving out time to do this learning. Dedicate your commute to industry podcasts. Carve out a couple of hours on a Friday to do those AWS courses, or talk as a group, get in with your team members, get in front of a whiteboard, throw some things up there. There's no rhyme or reason, just keep learning. This is going to be a very niche one. Any show of hands, anybody know what this is? No one. All right. One person. So this is a Sinclair ZX81. The year is 1988. This is our first family computer. I don't know where it came from. My parents don't seem to remember it, but I remember spending many, many hours with this computer. So what happened was it wasn't connected to the internet because we didn't have that yet. There was a cord that went into the television and another cord that went into a tape deck where I put this Sinclair tape in, and away it went. Now, you can see by the keyboard there, it's one of those flat ones, incredibly unresponsive. When I tell you it was unresponsive, the next slide is going to explain why it gave me a lot of pain. So this little device, I spent a heck of a lot of time on it trying to figure out what it did. And that little manual was what almost broke me. When I think about it now, this was actually my first taste of coding. And you can see there, it's one of the pages that I followed religiously for weeks and weeks on end. And I don't know if you can see it there, but one of the instructions is to do 32 dots. And when I tell you that if you got it wrong and you would have to reverse back and try and figure out where you were, you can see why I did not go into a career in engineering. This was absolutely the first and last bit of coding I have done. But something must have worked because I ended up making a game. Apparently it was called Klingons. I still don't know how to play it. It was one of those things that just moved on the screen and maybe I was meant to do something. But I was so proud of myself. I was so proud of myself, and my parents were very impressed that I figured out how to use this thing that randomly turned up in our house. And so this is where I remind you or share with you that you don't need to be an expert to make great things. You don't have to master every detail of something, and this is coming back to Cindy's point about being a recovering perfectionist. Just start small, have a play. There are so many places online where you can do demos or just get into an AI tool, have a play in a code base. It really is that simple. And please, please don't let needing to be an expert be a blocker for you having a play with something new. And when I think about starting small, I think about existing problems because they really are the low-hanging fruit. Is there a process you could automate easily? Is there something you could simplify? And I think of that 30-page manual for a release process. Is there something you can make faster? Is there something you can attach to something that's already existing or complementary workflow? These are all great small projects to get started. You can team up with a buddy. It's a great way to meet somebody, and if you have a great idea but you don't have the skill set to execute it, find somebody who can. I remember, and I'll talk about this a little bit further on, but the early days of working with Alexa, and I actually teamed up with the engineering lead, one of our engineering leads, and we literally fumbled through it together. And it was such a fun time, and it sort of built a really good bond that I wouldn't have ordinarily have had. And I want you to share your journeys, share the results, because when people see you talking about and sharing the results of these experiments with these new technologies or existing technologies you're trying to move in, then it becomes familiar and it becomes less scary. And it really is the fear that stops a lot of businesses from taking the big leap into any of this new stuff that's coming out. And certainly that's been announced over the last 2 days. Encarta, arguably Microsoft's best ever product. I know that Windows 95 was up there in the 90s, but for me, this was a window into the world. It's 1994. The internet years are starting, at least for this little Kiwi kid who is now in high school. Till now, all my research for projects had happened on the floor of the library, surrounded by Encyclopedia Britannica, not the online version, the tomes. We had a new computer in the school library. It was a big deal. It had Encarta on it, but more importantly, it had the internet. I signed up. I waited my 2 weeks to get my turn on the new computer. I heard the dial-up modem for the first time. First time, definitely the best time. Every subsequent time did my head in. And then I was off. I was off in the World Wide Web. Now, for those of you that are either too young for Encarta, or just not familiar, or just trying to block it out because it was an interesting product, that's for sure. It was an interactive encyclopedia. So it was Encyclopedia Britannica, but with sounds and text and moving games and videos, and it was really a really fun and interesting way to explore the world on this new thing that was the internet. Around about this time, and we're a couple of years later now, we're at the year 2000, the year of the Y2K bug. And again, for those of you that might not be familiar, it was something that stopped, well, it stopped a lot of the world because people were really worried that when the dates clicked over to 00, that the world's computers and everything that controlled the world was going to think it was 1900 and fall apart. Thankfully, we got through into January 1st, okay. I am in my final year of uni. We're all looking at internships to start off the following year. That year I'd interviewed a couple who were running an online zine. It's students.co.nz. It was targeted at university students. And I thought, this is kind of cool. I went to my tutor and I said, hey, I found this amazing job opportunity. I'm going to take it. What do you think? And my tutor looked at me and said, why would you want a webmaster role? It's an IT role. You're not going to be an IT. You are going to go out and start your career at a free local newspaper, writing articles about missing cats and shop windows being graffitied. And I thought, no, I'm not. That sounds really boring. And so I took the online road to the webmaster role. Now, I had a great time going back through the Internet Archive finding these. And I don't know how closely you can see, but the text is a bit rough and ready. It's Times New Roman. They are actually not broken web pages. This is actually what these online magazines look like at the time. So that was my first 2 roles, working on these 2 online magazines. And I learned so much. And a little bit of HTML, but again, as I said, my coding journey was done. And so the tool I've got for you out of this little phase of my life is to be an early adopter, but also to be a Sherpa of change. You have to test everything, all of the new tech, have a play, as I said before, to really understand how you're going to be able to apply it in your business. Demos and hands-on tutorials are a really great way to get teams and stakeholders on board. They don't have to be perfect. You can just get a few people in a room and go through an online demo, or put something together, create a lunch and learn, make sure you feed people because it's a great way to get people to turn up. And this will help teams think about how they can use this tech to apply to their own problems. And with that, you have to be the champion within the business. A lot of us find ourselves in a position of being an AI champion or the cloud champion. And you really have to own that, because it becomes your responsibility to be the person that continues to have those stakeholders and those business investors thinking about it and wanting to be involved. And that means really going hard on highlighting the wins, the learnings, the achievements, the cost savings. Those are always a really good one. But remember, it's your role to light the path, not to push people down it. It's going to take time. And I think that a lot of people here who've seen the keynotes and sort of heard the speakers over the last couple of days, you'll be hearing that there have been a lot of early adopters, but now we're just on the cusp of the mass adoption of AI and AI tooling within businesses. Businesses and business leaders have seen what things are capable of. They're seeing it out in the wild. They're seeing customers like ANZ and Canva talk about what they've done. And now it's going to be a lot easier for you to be able to get your ideas and your initiatives off the ground. But you have to keep at it. Don't let the no's, or we're not ready yet, or I'm not sure, or what about the safety aspect. Those are all in really good hands, and that comes down to you as well, making sure that you're communicating and highlighting all of the areas where these are coming with the tools that you're using, but also you as a business leader are going to put those at the forefront. You are the reassurer, you are the communicator, you are the cheerleader. 2000 to 2015, these are a few years that, oh my goodness, smartphones, social media, what else? Fintech, streaming, disruptors like Uber, AI, ML, smart devices, Alexa. It was a wild ride. In 2017, I started at Fox Sports. No, I didn't. Slightly earlier than that. But in 2017, the Alexa team came to us and they said, hey, look, we're launching Alexa in Australia and New Zealand. We would love Fox Sports to be on the product. Now, I had a role at the time sort of working out how we were going to run our podcast business, which was also in early days at the time. And so with that being audio, it became mine. I was pretty excited, was familiar with Alexa, but didn't really know what to do or how we were going to do it. And so I teamed up with the engineering lead, which I mentioned earlier, of the business, and we learned how to build a skill. Now, there were a lot of hiccups along the way, but it was made easier by us deciding to start simple. And our idea was that we were going to do sports news headlines. because it was something that our business produced every single day. We wouldn't have to go and get budget or teams on board to create anything bespoke. It was just going to be there already, and we could easily slot it into the existing processes that our editorial and broadcast teams had. And so that's what we did. And this was really the start of my AI journey. I really didn't know a lot about what was under the hood at the time, but I was really curious to learn. 18 months later, I joined the Alexa team as a product manager. And again, my learning journey took often a whole different direction. I've never thought of myself as being particularly technical, but I think when I think about it, it's one of those things that I think if you're learning, you're curious, and you're leading a team or in a team influencing stakeholders, you need to understand it, and you do understand more than you think you do. Alexa has over 30 ML and AI models running it. I had no idea what ASR meant, speech recognition, what Alexa hears. NLU, natural language understanding, what Alexa does as a result. But no, I'm an expert. Until recently. Now, the explosion of AI and ML has just been the most incredible learning curve, not only for me, but for my team and the entire Alexa business. Now, Alexa had been built and evolved over the past 10 years, and it's huge. Like, as I said, more than 30 different AI and ML models. Now, generative AI models may have seemed like they burst into the scene in 2022 out of nowhere, but most of them had been in production for over a decade. It was the fastest ever tech adoption of a consumer product. And it was actually quite surprising because people have been really accepting of the idea of an AI hallucination. We've had a lot of laughs about the pizza with the glue, but there's also been a lot of talk about the responsible AI criticality and the safety aspects. So this has been a huge learning curve, and it's rapidly evolving. RAG, what else? MCP, which is the more recent one from Anthropic, which I'm getting my head around at the moment. Agents, agentic workflows. These are all fairly complex ideas, but I think that one of the things that has made it easier for me to navigate it has been the proliferation of podcasts and videos and presentations and sessions like the ones earlier here today, which have really helped get me over the line of that technological shift. And so I want you to remember that we're here to nail the basics. Get your stakeholders on board early. They have to be along for the journey. Get them into the workshops. Get them in thinking about some of the tooling. Get them using the AI tools that are available. I think that there are a lot of people in executive roles today who don't use any of these sort of Claude or any of those tools in their day-to-day life. So try and suss that out and see what you can do to help them start using AI in their everyday lives. You need a solid foundation of systems. The responsible AI piece, the ethics, the guardrails. Without this, it's 100% a one-way door. You cannot go back on this aspect. So please, please, please make sure people that you are working with and who are doing your projects, they're thinking about this from day one. You also need strong data and security. Table stakes, absolutely. And if you're thinking about where to start, make an early focus on areas with a clear customer or business value. And this is really 101. You'll get faster results, and you'll be able to show something to leadership and executives that is impactful, but then also it's going to help you get the green light or the yellow light, whichever way they're going, to do a more complex piece of work. The pace of change is relentless, and I think that we've all been feeling it this week. Being a leader and innovator brings constant challenges. There are going to be a lot of backward steps, but you just have to keep moving forward. Now, the 4 tools, just as a reminder, we're going to lead with curiosity. We're going to be, I can't see. You don't need to be an expert to do great things. You're going to be a Sherpa of change, and you're going to try to nail the basics. So if you do take one thing away today, it is that childhood curiosity, and to look to your past to inform the future. Ka mua, ka muri. Thank you all.
Thanks, Kate and Cindy, for taking us through your journey and your masterclasses. What a great way to show the practical applications of innovative thinking. Thank you all for joining. Wanted to say a really big thank you for coming out today for the super session. Just wanted to remind you all that there will be a second session taking place at 2:50 for transformative networks. There will be a 30-minute panel and then a 30-minute speed networking round. So please make some time to come along to that. It'll be on the same stage. Thanks everyone, and have a good one.
Thank you, everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed this session. Please don't forget to fill in the feedback on the events app. And if you can leave the headsets where you found them. Thank you.